Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Shantz. To my right, I have the great Matt Ricketts. Matt, what's up?
What's up, fellas? It's my favorite show of the week. Eat shit, Brady. Can't wait for it. It's gonna be great. Buckeyes got another, pretty tough, decent matchup this week. I can't wait for it. We got some really good college football games, so it's gonna be great to discuss and get excited here for some cheese curds and some good Wisconsin beer.
Got that right. Brady down below in Columbus. You and Matt will be matriculating to Madison, Wisconsin. Brady, what's going on with you, though?
Yeah, not much. I don't know about the great Matt Ricketts. I'd say he's pretty average. But
I had to give him one time. You know what I'm saying? I had to give him the one time. But
yeah. But definitely a good matchup this week. If we win this game, we're gonna have 4 wins, better than Michigan's best win.
Yep.
So that'll be cool to add another one.
Cheers.
Yeah, exactly. And this will probably be. I think this is our 3rd best win if we win it. Because night game at Camp Randall is going to be tough to win always, and Wisconsin's a pretty good team with arguably the best running back in college football, and Braylon Allen. So, going to be a fun one. Definitely the game I'm most excited for this week for sure.
Indeed. And, like always, guys, like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll try to drop some audio here soon. A couple of our best episodes, we will get some audio out. Brady and Matt's first time going to Madison, Wisconsin. Our special guest, actually really friend of the show at this point, Noah Eagle's going to come on at 8:30. I believe it's his first time going to Camp Randall Stadium as well, so at least with NBC. But we'll talk to him at 8:30. Big things coming up. We're going to do our segments really, really quick. And then we're obviously going to talk about the big thing that's been going around college football so far in the, Michigan. In the case of Michigan football, the verdict is we will find out, and we will discuss our things going forward. First off, more bounce to the out. It's really simple. I'm not even going to do split screen. Next weekend, UCF comes into town to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Both teams are underperforming and everything. I'll be on the call for that game. It's a 3:30 game on FS1. Check us out on Bearcat Sports Radio. It'll be, an interesting matchup between two teams that are below the 500 total, and both teams were in the American Athletic Conference, and they've played some really big games over there. They'll get their first matchup as Big 12 opponents, and very excited to do that. Do some basketball games the following week after UCF takes on Cincinnati. I'll actually be on the call for the second men's basketball game for Cincinnati Bearcats. They're going to take on, I think it's Detroit Mercy Titans. So we'll see how that whole thing goes. Brady, down below, what's going on with you?
Yeah, so we're going to go back to recruiting here because I don't need to talk about anything else really. We are killing it right now in terms of trending for prospects. After this Penn State game, brought in a lot of visitors, and the top visitor we had was 5-star, number 1 corner in the class of 2025, Devin Sanchez out of Texas. He said that Ohio State is quote unquote running away with his recruitment, and if nothing changes, this thing will be over soon. So he basically said he's going to commit to Ohio State if nothing changes. That's huge. Number 1 corner in the country from the state of Texas. As well, we're also in the lead for the number 3 and number 4 corner in the nation. Dorian Brew used to go to Northmont High School, transferred to a high school in Texas in the middle of the season this year, but still looking like he's going to come home. And then there's another corner in the state of Ohio, number 4 corner. I forget his name. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But we're also in the lead for him. So a lot of big time corners we're looking at there. Other words, we go to the receiver portion of things. Class of 2024, we obviously have 3 receiver commits: Jeremiah Smith, Jeremiah McClellan, and Mylan Graham. And Saturday, they were all in attendance, looking like we're to keep that intact for another great haul of receivers. And that's about it.
All right. That's BK Brolin. I don't have the stuff up. Matt, fire us away your picks.
Here we go, boys. We had another losing week last week, 1-2, but we are still 13-10-1 on the year, which is pretty good.
Getting close, Matt. Getting close to 500.
13-10-1 is a winning record. I eat shit.
I'm just kidding.
I got 3 games for you this week. I like Oregon -6.5 against Utah. Utah coming off that big win against USC. I think Oregon bounces back from the Washington loss, and then they played a close game against Washington State as well. I don't know. I just feel like Utah's not going to be able to score enough points against a really good Oregon defense to keep it within 7. So I'm going to take Oregon minus 6.5 in this game. Next game, I like the Indiana Hoosiers plus 32 against Penn State. I can't even believe that's a fucking massive line, especially with the fucking offense we watched from Penn State last week. I know it's a little bit different defense, obviously, but the way Indiana likes to run the ball, I just and time of possession, I just feel like it's going to be really hard for Penn State to win by more than 32 points in this game. So give me the Hoosiers plus 32, and then the pick of the week, I'm going to take the Ohio State Buckeyes minus 14.5 on the road in Camp Randall. Brady says he thinks Wisconsin's pretty good. I think they suck. I think we should, but it is at Camp Randall, and they do have a good running back, so you never really know about this kind of game. I just feel like we're not going to have a hangover. Ryan Day's done a really good job throughout his tenure so far at Ohio State of not allowing this team to have, one of those kind of Urban Meyer type games with Purdue or Iowa. So I think we come on the road and I think we kick the shit out of them. So the Buckeyes minus 14.5, pick of the week.
All right, there you go. Matt's picks. Matt will be right back. Brady, we're gonna have a discussion as he shows off his World Series banner with the Springfield Heat, which I think it's a team we've all played for them, right?
Yeah, everyone's
played for them. So there you go. But Brady, I know I've seen you very, very, very active on Twitter. As always, but about this in particular being the Michigan Wolverines alleged scandal going on, not really even alleged anymore. It's happening. To give background on it, obviously people have heard about it going forward. You look at it, Connor Stallions, the suspended Michigan staffer at the center of the NCAA sign-stealing probe, purchased tickets in his own name for more than 30 games over the past 3 years at 11 Big Ten schools. Sources at 11 different league schools. That was via ESPN. Crazy to say the least, because there's literally video evidence of the Wolverines taking signs.
Yep.
Obviously, it wasn't before any games like that, but they were taking signs last year when Ohio State was checking the different play calls. You saw the video. I believe it was WBNS, Channel 10, CBS in Columbus. There was video footage of CJ Stroud going up to the line and checking a play. And this is not every day that you see the entire team hold up the signs of what's going on for the defense. Yep. And it's on both sides of the ball. Brady, give me your first thoughts on a media standpoint outside of Twitter.
Yeah, so it's absolutely pathetic that this is going on right now. And anyone that tries to spin it anyway else, any Michigan fan that's in denial, this is one of the biggest jokes and one of the worst scandals in college football history. And if the NCAA, which they have it, if they can, compile enough evidence, then their program is going to implode in ways we can't even imagine in terms of you think Harbaugh's gone, wins vacated, bowl bans, all that stuff could happen to them. This is not good for Michigan at all. And it makes a lot of sense. You go back, there's so many things, and that's not just as an Ohio State fan. Like, I never thought I would have an excuse for these losses, and yet they gifted us one. Like, it's like, okay, you could still, like, I would still like to beat them even if they do know everything we're going to do, because I just think we were that much more talented. But it makes a lot of sense why there were so many plays where they were just in the right place at the right time. So that video you brought up is perfect. Like, it shows Connor what's his last name again?
Stallions.
Connor Stallions. Yeah, my bad. Connor Stallions. He is watching. He has the signal sheet when someone got a picture of Ohio State signals on his sheet. He had the signal sheet, and he's staring at it while looking at our offensive coordinator or our offensive signaler signaling the play. And as soon as it happens, obviously, he gives the signal out to the team to show the defense what to run. And lo and behold, they have the perfect coverage called. And that just doesn't happen by coincidence. And there's another play where we call a run play. We check to a run play, and they blitz 3 people to the hole we're running the ball to. it's the most absurd things you'll ever see. They completely manipulated everything. They were 23 and 32 against the spread from Harbaugh before 2021, and since then they're like 30 and 13 or something crazy like that. They've everything's changed, and it just hasn't added up.
Yeah,
it just hasn't added up.
It's actually insane to think about. Obviously, it's one thing when you're watching film and you can take stuff, you're watching, all 22 film, you're watching coaches film, and you're looking at, obviously the normal breakdown of film, and you're just like, all right, these guys are really good at this. They like to run this play a lot. There's stuff going on. Maybe along the sideline on film you catch it, but you're like, okay, not sure, blah, blah, blah. But to take it to the extent where you have a staffer fly out to games, pay for the ticket, and film the entire thing.
And he also was filming, like, he even had videos of our play sheet. So it just confirms everything. Like an all 22 film, like you said, you could maybe catch a sign or two in there, but for the most part, you can't find signs. Somebody put an example out today where you could not steal signs like that from all 22. And I saw a lot of funny reactions from Michigan fans. Like, some of them are somehow still in denial and think they're going to be fine. Wild to me.
There's a lot of them.
If I was a Michigan fan, I would be scared to death that, you go on this run and then this is like what's happening right now. And there's others that are just like, wow, I'm just going to enjoy the win while we had it and our program's over. Like, they know the real outcome of the expected outcome. The most likely outcome is, at the very least, Harbaugh coaching next year would be shocking, in my opinion. So that's how I take it. Like, I just don't expect a good outcome for this program. And it just isn't looking good. And the funniest part about this is the one team that didn't get film on was the TCU Horned Frogs, because they didn't know they were playing them. 51 points. Michigan was never letting up 51 points to Penn State or Ohio State, Ohio State had a much better offense than TCU. Penn State had at least a similar level offense of TCU.
Yep.
And, holding Ohio State to 23 points in perfect weather was always head scratching. Like, I'm just sitting here like, wow, like, that was the worst called game I've seen from Ryan Day in his era by far. And it's even the biggest game of the year. I'm like shocked. Like, everything he would call was just like, what's going on? It's not like this is just not it. We see a little bit why that happened now. We see and also being without Jackson Smith and Jigba, Trey Henderson, Mike Williams, all that. But, crazy that this is happening. And not to mention Purdue last year. Remember it was really close in the first half? Big Ten championship for Michigan.
Yeah.
That game, I don't know. They might not have had film in Purdue either. Maybe they probably had a staffer filming Purdue sideline during that game and got the signs at halftime. You never know.
Who knows, man?
They tried to get us in Penn State on Saturday. They tried to, and then nobody used the ticket because they found out. Clear evidence that what was going to happen. That's all the NCAA needs.
It's a lot. We're going to bring on Noah in just a second, but Matt, you just got back. What were your simplified thoughts about this whole Michigan thing?
I think they're cooked. I mean, when there's smoke, there's fire. It just feels like there's way too much shit going on right now for them to not be somewhat guilty. I mean, I think
we've seen the fire too. It's not like we just are predicting. Like, we've seen.
I just think I'll be shocked if Harbaugh makes it through these next 5 games. I think he will be relieved of duty.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be too much heat on Michigan, too many details and everything coming out their way. They're just going to have to cut ties. I seriously, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about the integrity of the game here, and wouldn't shock me if Vegas pulls their spreads soon, pulls their lines. It just wouldn't shock me at all. So I do believe Harbaugh will end up losing his job over this.
There's a lot
of unprecedented. It's so unprecedented. I've never seen anything like this.
It's a lot of stuff that's going on. We're gonna bring Noah on real quick. Noah, you called the game against Michigan State. Obviously, they killed them. Okay, and we don't have to spend much time on this because the entire nation's been talking about Michigan and everything that's been going on. But do you have any sort of thoughts on this entire thing?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Good to see everybody.
Yeah,
Good to see
obviously.
you too.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. Let me start by saying this. Clearly, if there's been a rule broken, which it's starting to look more and more like that's the case, that deserves punishment. And I think that Michigan will get punished if it is entirely proven and the evidence says that they should. With that being said, I think Joshua Perry, who's on our pregame show, put it perfectly this past weekend. And we were talking about it off the air, and then he mentioned it on the air as well. It's a stupid rule. I think that the fact that you can't go and scout in person is ridiculous. Every other league in America would allow anybody to go scout in person. So it's a rule from 1994 that was in theory about the integrity of the game, sure, but more so about the cost and making sure it's a level playing field. Pretty much every team can afford that at this point. Pretty much every school in the country can afford that at this point. So it's a stupid rule. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that it is illegal, and so you do get punished for it. But what this likely does is eliminates that rule altogether. It forces us to change that rule altogether. And most likely, which I think is going to be a positive outcome from all of this, it's going to get us direct to helmet communication, which is really the key in all of this and fixing all of this and getting rid of hand signals, getting rid of big signs, having the same NFL method that's worked now for 2+ decades and almost 3 of just having the coach speak directly to the quarterback, having the coach speak directly to a middle linebacker, and that's it. I mean, that's an easy fix in all of this. In terms of what it looks like for Michigan, and Todd Blackledge mentioned this on our broadcast, and then we said it again when we recorded our podcast, and I agree with him. Again, doesn't take away from the fact that in all likelihood, based on the evidence we've seen, they've probably broken a rule. But I will say that shouldn't take away from how good of a team they are at the same time. I mean, they are loaded. They are the best team probably that I've seen. I mean, Ohio State's right there with them, especially defensively. But Michigan is so deep. They roll. I mean, they haven't had a defensive lineman this year play more than 35 snaps in a game. And they haven't given up more than 10 points in a single game. So, yeah, you can say maybe that's sign stealing. Sure, everybody steals signs. It's about the way they did it. And more so their talent level and their will to win and their togetherness and unselfishness, it's second to none. So, yes, they should be punished, and they will be. But at the same time, they're darn good, man. Like they're one of the best teams in the country, bar none.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Honestly, that's the big thing there. It's just that obviously, yep, like I said, someone decided to break the integrity of the game, and we'll see how the entire thing goes. But yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. The NFL's had quarterbacks have the helmet radios, and the middle linebackers do, and it is an easy fix. It's just the fact that someone ended up breaking that rule and everything. It's a mess, but it could be fixed though. But we'll see how the entire thing shakes out. It's it's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, how you been, Noah? How's everything been going?
Everything's been great, guys. You kidding me? We're in the fun part of the season now, where we get to talk about real things and oh yeah, it's like the witching hour of the college football season. Wins become losses, losses become wins, championships get crystallized, and dreams get shattered. So this is the best time of the year for all of us, and I've just enjoyed the ride to this point.
It's been a great season. It's crazy how many scenarios, different college football playoff scenarios are still out there. Like, I feel like it's that one of the deepest years we've had. There's not like one team that's like clearly above the rest, but there's so many good teams.
100%. It feels like the last several years there's been really 2 or 3 that have a real chance of winning it. And I think that you can point to 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that all still at this point of the season feel like if things break the right way, they could win it. USC now kind of out of that race, Notre Dame kind of out of that race. But you look even just at the top 10, it's funny because we talk about it every week during our show, or not during, but before our games generally start. And we're watching the SEC window, and everybody just wanted to count out this Alabama team. And it's a prime example of, one, it looks like Nick Saban's having more fun than maybe he's ever had. And 2, their defense just keeps getting better. And then 3, Jalen Milroe just keeps finding ways to win games and just do enough to win games. And so it's another example of a team that easily, if things break right, everything can go in their favor. They could be there. Obviously, we know Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State up towards the top, Washington, Oregon, all those teams are great. Oklahoma and Texas. I think that's great for the Big 12. So it's been a fun year in that sense. I think you're absolutely right.
Definitely has been. And that's, you mentioned the Alabama portion of it. It hasn't been pretty for them, but in football and in sports in general, You just got to get wins. You got to get W's in the win column. That's the only thing that matters. And to mention Nick Saban having a lot of fun. I mean, he had a cigar post game. Like, when does that ever happen?
He was chewing on one.
Chewing on
one.
Wasn't
going to smoke it, right? I
exactly.
agree with you. And I think, I didn't even mention Florida State, who just keeps finding ways to win. And that's the key. I think it's exactly what Ohio State has done to remain perfect at this point. It hasn't been what it looked like the last couple of years, but doesn't matter if they're 7-0, if they're going to be 8-0 or 9-0 and 10. It doesn't matter. As long as they keep winning, they're putting themselves in prime position to be a college football playoff team. And that's the goal at the end of the season.
Exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's been probably the most different Ohio State team I've seen up to this point in my time watching the Buckeyes, because usually when we're one-sided, or not really, I'm not going to say one-sided because our offense has a lot of potential and definitely can get going, but when we have one side of the ball that's clearly been better than the other, it's usually our offense. And so seeing it be our defense, and it's really been all three levels of the defense, it feels good, honestly. Like, just knowing that on third down, there's a great likelihood that we're getting a stop and that they're not going to, torch us for a 40-yard gain, or we're going to bust a coverage or and then just have to score every drive. Like, it just feels good.
I believe wholeheartedly that a lot of that comes down to and boils down to year 2 under Jim Knowles and having that familiarity in the system. And I think we've seen it. One, you mentioned the explosive plays. That was the kryptonite at the end of last year, right? You
Absolutely.
give up big time plays to Michigan, big time plays to Georgia. Eventually your season comes to a close. And their offense was right there to battle, certainly in that Georgia game especially. So they had the offense to maybe overcome it, but eventually you're going to get burnt. You're going to get just completely winded and exhausted. The fact that I think last week for Ohio State, and I know we'll probably talk even more about them, but the fact that they didn't have Denzel Burke last week and still looked as good as they did. And I'm not saying that Penn State has these amazing weapons on the outside, but Keandre Lambert-Smith's had a good season. Those 2 tight ends are really good. And obviously you've got 2 of the best running backs in football. And for the defense to put together the performance they did last week without their best cover guy, that was a huge, just, I think, prove it. This is what we've got. This is what we're capable of type of moment that can really carry a team through a season.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Who's the unsung hero of the defense? Who would you say? You called the Notre Dame game, but would it be Denzel Burke, or what would you think?
I like Denzel. I think the one guy who doesn't get enough credit for kind of the way he's played really since he's made the switch to the defensive end is Steele Chambers. I like Steele Chambers a lot. I just think that he can impact the game in a variety of ways. I think both those linebackers, Eichenberg and Chambers, are really good. And Brady mentioned it. They got studs at all 3 levels, and I think that's what makes them good. They play fantastic football collectively as a group. Up front, those guys are monsters. So it's hard to really single in on one, but I do love both those linebackers, and I think they really set the tone for the defense.
Yeah. Switching sides of the offense, again, you're calling the Ohio State Notre Dame game. You saw Kyle McCord, take that minute 30 drive down the field to win the ball game. Me, Matt, Brady, and the rest of Brady's family, his brother and his dad, we're all down in the basement watching the game, just going insane. What did that tell you about Kyle McCord, that final drive in a hostile environment like Notre Dame in a prime time setting on NBC? What did that tell you about Kyle?
Yeah, I think more than anything, we walked away super impressed with the fact that he wanted the ball in his hands. He wanted to have that moment for himself. He stepped into the spotlight and delivered. And you can say whatever you want about how he played for the rest of that game and previous to that drive. He gave the team a chance, and the defense certainly gave the team a chance to go and win the game. And it was up to him to make the plays. The 4th down conversion to Julian Fleming was great, and a lot of credit for Fleming for kind of extending and getting to that 1st down marker. And then obviously Emeka Egbuka made just unbelievable clutch grabs in that game, and especially on that drive. And without Egbuka, you don't win the game. I also say without JT Tuimoloau, you don't win the game because of the plays that he made to get the ball back to Ohio State, especially on that screen that Sam Hartman was trying to set up. Because if he doesn't knock that ball down, I think Notre Dame takes that minimum for a 1st down. They're taking it minimum to midfield, and they're probably icing the game from that point on. So JT comes alive in the 4th quarter, as it seems like he always does. But for Kyle McCord to settle in the way that he did with a hobbled Marvin Harrison Jr. in that game, who clearly was not himself, and to just have this calmness, this poise about him, understanding the situations, understanding what they had to work with the one timeout, how they could get to the sidelines, how they could get to certain boundaries, and understanding if they got that first down to the 1 with Ibuka, that they had the time to go up and clock it as well. I thought it was brilliant. I really did. And I thought that more than anything, it was a confidence builder, not just for him, but for all the guys around him to recognize, okay, big moment. No, he's got this. And we've all got this collectively.
Yep. Yep, exactly. That's No Eagle, Big Ten Voices, Big Ten Saturday night at NBC. So the three of you guys have something in common coming up this Saturday. So you're obviously calling the game. Brady just got tickets to the game, and Matt got tickets like 6 months ago to this game. All you guys are Camp Randall first timers, getting that Wisconsin cheese curds. Matt getting his alcohol up and everything. Man, just what are you excited about when it comes to coming to Camp Randall Stadium and obviously jump around? We talked about this.
Well, I mean, that's the big one, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to experience not just jump around, but jump around for a night game at Wisconsin, doing all of it. The hope from a broadcaster's perspective is we have a close game at that point, so it makes the moment even more special. I'm not going to speak for all you guys who might be Ohio State fans, let's call it, but I will speak for myself in that sense that if we get a close game going into the fourth quarter, that's going to be an electric atmosphere. I really think the atmosphere overall, it's Halloween weekend on a college campus. That alone, Students are already revved up, students are already excited, and then you bring the number 3 team in the country into Madison. And look, I'm not saying that Wisconsin is going to be the same if they had Tanner Mordecai or not. It's probably a bummer from their perspective, from the Badgers' perspective, that they don't. But we know that Luke Fickell's an outstanding head coach. He's got ties to Ohio State littered around his staff, certainly himself personally. And I think that there's always a little something extra. And I could go back to the Notre Dame game, even with Marcus Freeman. When you talk to him, he's going to, play it down and say, no, another game. No. You could sense it. You could feel it. It means a little bit extra to those guys to stick it to their old alma mater. So I'm excited just for the overall vibe. I've eaten like just complete trash on the Big Ten circuit. I mean, it's been nothing but fried food. The amount of cheese curds I've already had has already topped my entire lifetime intake. So this week is going to be a different level, but I'm excited for that as well. I know that the Wisconsin food scene always delivers.
Definitely. That might be one of my most excited, most anticipated things of this trip. Obviously the game, jump around, all that stuff. Camp Randall is electric, but the cheese curds, man, Chase reminded me before the show, and I wasn't even thinking about Wisconsin cheese curds, but man, very excited. Very excited.
Well, they're good when they squeak is what I've been told. And, I was real lucky when I was with the Clippers. We would go to Milwaukee and their PR staff would take care of me, and they'd bring me cheese curds into the broadcast.
That's awesome.
I would nibble at halftime because I can't really during the game.
Yeah,
but they were next level. So I haven't had to that level since since I've been there. So I'm assuming Madison's going to even take that maybe a step further.
I hope so. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll ask this in a second, but Matt and Brady have been talking about going to every Big Ten stadium. I think they started talking about that back in 2018 and everything. Matt, what stadiums have you been to in the Big Ten, though? I'm trying to get a remembrance on that.
Oh, I've been to, obviously, the Horseshoe, the Big House. I've been to Michigan State. I've been to Purdue. I've been to Illinois. And now I will be crossing off Camp Randall. So, and Lucas Oil, I guess, too, for Big Ten Championship. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go. So I'm excited. I mean, I've been to a lot. I think we've talked about going to Northwestern next year. So
nice.
It'll be fun. I mean, I really want to go to especially all of the, the original Big Ten schools first before we end up traveling out west, because those trips are going to be expensive. But if we could drive 8 hours to a game, I love it. It's great.
For sure.
Got that right. But definitely. Noah, I mean, how would you describe in a few words Big Ten football as a whole? I mean, you've been to many stadiums, you've seen, many teams play and everything, but how would you describe the football that's been played, the conference, in a couple of words. I mean, Matt says he's a wordsman. I want to hear if you're a wordsman as well. If you can,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my job. So if I'm not,
Yeah.
I might have to reconsider what my livelihood looks like. I will say that we're going to be at the Big House next week. So that'll be my first time there, which is going to be, I think, really exciting. I mean, Michigan could roll over Purdue, but we'll see. We'll see if Ryan Walters' team has a little something left in the tank there. And then we'll be at the Horseshoe in a couple weeks, the week after that. And I'll be doing in Columbus the basketball game on Friday against A&M, and then the football game against Michigan State. So that full weekend in Columbus, I can't wait. I haven't been to Columbus in a couple years, so getting back there is going to be awesome. But to answer your initial question just about Big Ten football, I think that everybody knows the physicality is a little different, right? The grind it out, it feels that way. But more than anything, I think the passion stands out to me of all the fan bases that everywhere I've gone, especially I would say Iowa is a surprisingly high one on the list. People who haven't experienced what Kinnick has to offer, you get there and you really feel it. You know what I mean? You feel it. Certainly Beaver Stadium, Penn State is a different level. When you get 110,000 fans and they're all locked in, nobody takes a play off. Everybody is absolutely laser focused on what's going on the field. And then, of course, the Ohio State and Michigan side. And I've experienced now both fan bases just on the road and seeing how they travel and seeing the passion. That's what separates, I think, the Big Ten. And the good news for the conference, because I think the last thing that has really stood out to me is the highest quality of coaches. I think that it's an incredibly high quality of coach. And you're adding 4 teams that bring 4 really impressive head coaches. Lincoln Riley, obviously, we know what his track record looks like from Oklahoma and now over there at SC. And while they haven't had the season that they maybe hoped for these last couple of weeks, they're still going to be dangerous moving forward because he's such a great recruiter and he can go into the portal and nab pretty much any of the most talented guys who are available. Chip Kelly, again, track record speaks for itself. And then I think those 2 guys at Oregon and Washington, Dan Lanning and Kalen DeBoer, are 2 of the best unsung coaches in all of college football who have proven themselves now this year and are becoming more household names. But when I spoke to Dan Lanning 2 years ago, as last year at Georgia as the defensive coordinator, I left that meeting and I was thinking to myself, holy bleep, this guy's impressive. And I think same deal, I had DeBoer when he was at his last year at Fresno State, or excuse me, at Fresno State. And same deal. I was like, oh, wait, okay. I see why this guy wins this many games. I see why his winning percentage is, 80, 90%. He's just got that it factor. And so when you're adding those coaches to the collection that the conference already has, I just think that it makes the matchups that much more interesting.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, adding that factor to it. I mean, the coaches are a big factor in this game. Obviously, the recruiting aspect out west for teams like Washington and Oregon that have been really good. USC also like bringing over Lincoln Riley and everything. It goes pretty far. I know we talked a lot of Ohio State, a lot of Big Ten. But I'll give Wisconsin a little bit of love. Braylon Allen, he's done a really good job this year. 120 carries, 704 yards, 8 touchdowns, averaging just about 6 yards a carry. Obviously you've seen Blake Corum play. You've seen Travion Henderson play when he's healthy. He's been hasn't been healthy for the last month or so. Where exactly? Matt has thoughts about Travion Henderson, but where exactly would you rank Braylon Allen amongst that group if you've gotten to watch any type of film or anything on him? What do you think about Braylon Allen as a player?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think again the Big Ten running backs per usual are at the top of the country. I mean, you can just go across this conference and not just Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards at Michigan. He might not have had the same production level as what we saw last year. I mean, he was averaging over 7 yards a carry last year, which was ridiculous. And it's way down, but his pass catching ability out of the backfield is second to none. And then what he can do with the ball in his hands is unbelievable. So to have those 2 guys, and then to have at Ohio State the 3-headed monster that they've developed with Henderson, Williams, and Trainum, who honestly I think is awesome, and I think has a really bright future ahead of him. Obviously, I might be biased because I got to see him score a game-winning touchdown at Notre Dame Stadium, and so I understand that. But I do think that he's got something that is really impressive about him, and the way he handles moments and the way that he lets things develop, I think is awesome. Penn State, I mentioned those 2 guys, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, I think are both dynamic, electric, one of them's a more downhill guy, the other one's a home run hitter, and it's a perfect complement. And it's a shame because that's what Wisconsin had too, because they had two guys to start this season that were both dominant, tearing it up, and not just Braylon Allen, but Ches Malusi. And when Ches went down, everything has been kind of put onto Allen's shoulders, and the way that he's responded has been incredible. And the conference is in really good hands because you've got younger guys that are emerging outside of those teams. But I think Allen's as good as just about any of them. And I'll be curious to see him in person because that generally changes my viewpoint of how I see certain running backs. I think Blake Corum is incredibly impressive in person. I think Travion Henderson is incredibly impressive in person. So I'm excited to see what Braylon Allen looks like just to stack up with those guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot and everything. The Big Ten with their mentality, Midwest, run the football, control line of scrimmage, play defense, just be tough overall. And that's what, embodies a bunch of those running backs is being tough, being durable throughout the season. So that's a really big thing. Anybody else have anything they want to ask Noah before, he gets on Ivan? I know he's got a busy schedule, and we appreciate taking your time out of your day, Noah.
Of course.
I have one thing to ask. One thing. Who would you say is the best college football player that you have ever watched in person while you're covering the game?
So it's hard not to say Marvin Harrison Jr., which I don't know if you guys are in on a Maserati Marv nickname or not.
You got that right.
Yeah.
It's hard not to say him, and I think Brock Bowers is like 1A or 1B. I mean, both guys are unicorns in many ways. I think Brock is a unicorn because positionally he's just so different than everything else that we see. And I got to see him as a true freshman. And what he did as a true freshman, I'm like, this shouldn't be legal. You know what I mean? This shouldn't be happening right now. But at the same time, what makes Marv so special is his toughness. Clearly, we've seen that through the year. His consistency and reliability is second to none. And it doesn't matter who's throwing to him, he's going to make them look good. And I think that's what Kyle McCord is starting to recognize even more. Obviously, they have the history being high school teammates, but we've seen it now the last couple of games. It started, I thought, in the Maryland game where he just goes, all right, let me find the best guy on the field and let him go to work. And then I did Caleb Williams games twice last year, and he was incredible in his own right. I mean, he's just so creative in how he can go about it. He's so different in how he approaches every play, and you don't see it anywhere else. So it's different. But I think that from a football player perspective, and Todd and I were talking today, Marvin Harrison, there's no reason that he can't win the Heisman this year. Is he not the best player in college football right now? I think he probably is, right?
Biased, I do think he is, but
I know you guys are biased, and I again, that's why I said Bowers is because Bowers obviously now is hurt, and so it changes things a little bit. But I think Bowers is right there with him. I think those two are arguably the best players in college football right now. And then then you've got some other guys who are just freaks, right? Physical freaks. Yep. And I do think that there are a number of those, but those are probably the names that stick out to me as the top guys that I've seen and the ones that have really I've turned my head. I will say one guy who I did a couple games 2 years ago, Arkansas games, and Traylon Burks was really impressive. It was his last year there. He went off that season over 1,000 yards. He was scoring touchdowns every week, but he was just physically imposing. And then you matched it with his speed and his route precision, and I was like, all right, this guy's a problem. So I've been fortunate to see a bunch. But I would say those initial guys I mentioned are kind of a step above.
Perfect choice. I agree completely. Two best players in college football, and you take a position out of the like positional value when you don't look at that. I just feel like those are two generational prospects right there.
100%. To me, it's if you have a quarterback already, right? If you're in the NFL, if you're an NFL organization, and let's say you've already taken your quarterback, let's say Carolina, right? They just took Bryce Young last year, number 1 overall. I mean, they're not going to get the picks because Chicago has him. But let's say, all right, I'm going to go Chicago. Let's say Chicago says Justin Fields is our guy. We don't want to change that. We believe that he's the future. Wouldn't you take both those guys if you had those 2 top 5 picks? Like you take both of them. You say we're putting Marvin Harrison on the outside and we're putting Brock Bowers at tight end, and we're going to be unstoppable for the foreseeable future. I just think they are, to me, can't miss prospects so long as they stay healthy. And the work ethic that I've heard about both of them is really what separates them long term.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Yep. Matt, you got any final things you want to ask Noah before he gets on out of here?
Nope, I'm good, brother.
All right, cool. You're the man, Noah. We appreciate you, and we'll see you down the road here soon. Have knock him alive on Saturday. Tell you
I like it. I like
Yeah,
it. Change
yeah.
it up.
got that
you
right.
guys.
Yeah. Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Hey,
Yes,
have fun
sir.
in Madison. Have fun in Madison. Enjoy
Appreciate
it.
it.
Kurtz.
Yes,
Thank
sir,
you.
man.
I definitely will. You too. Make sure you said you hadn't been to Madison specifically, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me know if it's any different from the cheese curds up in Milwaukee.
Oh, I will. I'll have the high level review.
Got that
Definitely.
right, man. Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
All right. See you, Noah.
All right, guys. Be good.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
All right. That was Noah Eagle, the voice of NBC's Big Ten Saturday night. We're going to do a couple of picks, and then we're going to get on out of here. So, obviously, I think Noah mentioned something about a bunch of running backs in college football in the Big Ten, and one of them mentioned was Donovan Edwards. Now, Matt and Brady have had a thing going back and forth the entire season that has really not been put amongst the air that much.
It hasn't.
Brady and Matt, if you guys want to give your sides of the story, Matt, first off, talk about Donovan Edwards at this point. What do you think about Donovan Edwards as a player, Matt?
I think he's a really good player. I think he's just not having a good year, and thus far, I told Brady I would admit myself at the end of the year if I think he's not better than Blake Corum, because I think he is. But like I said, they still got 4 or 5 games left, plus whatever happens in the postseason.
4 games left.
So
they've played 2/3 of their season.
Yeah, I'm saying 4 or 5. If 5, if you
fuck you,
dude. You know. I mean, seriously, fuck you. And so
I'm just pointing out the fact that 2/3 of the season's over. That's all I'm saying.
I told him I'd tell him at the end of the year. So we'll see.
He did. Matt's sticking with his word. He's sticking with his word. All right. But yeah, we already know our side of the story here, but we'll get a couple picks in real quick. Matt already picked Ohio State minus 14.5. Do you have a specific score or nah? What do you think?
Yeah, I'll give you one, 31-14.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds about right. Brady, what's your pick on this one?
I'm going to go with 28-10. A little 18-point victory. Braylon Allen will get a touchdown.
All right.
Fuck him.
He's better than Donovan Edwards. Easily.
All right. I'm going to go on ahead and say I'm going to go 34-17. 34-17. I think it'll be a nice victory for the Ohio State Buckeyes on the road. I think it'll be somewhat close at the start of the game. I think it'll be pretty close first half. I think Ohio State's going to really pull away after that. Let me look at a couple of comments real quick. Connor, good friend Connor. Yes, we did talk about that earlier. If you want to go back and listen to what we had to say around the 10-minute mark, you can definitely listen to our thoughts on that. Jim Harbaugh team listened to the interview. Yep. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. So that's the thing there. There's a couple games that are going on as well. A lot of games going on, but a couple games to highlight. The classic Georgia-Florida rivalry that happens the last Saturday in October in Jacksonville. Georgia's going to kill them. Well, Florida's not that good, we'll say. But Georgia does have some tough games coming up on their schedule. Does Georgia survive this week, Brady?
Yeah, they'll survive against Florida. I mean, if they don't, I would lose a lot of respect for them.
Yeah.
After watching Florida many times this year just look so atrocious against Utah, against Kentucky. I just think that this is a game. This is not really much of a trap game for Georgia, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I also think Graham Mertz, he's actually had a decent season. I don't think he's good, though. Firsthand, I actually had front row seats to the Wisconsin game last year.
Slight flex.
Yeah, slight flex, but, terrible pass from Graham Mertz, first drive of the game. One of the worst passes I've ever seen in Tanner McAllister. And I just watched that like, this dude sucks. Like, no decent quarterback makes that bad of a throw. And so, Graham Mertz.
Which one was worse, though? Graham Mertz's throw or Spencer Petrus's throw? which you were both sitting really close with, and
I
Matt
would
was
say-
at the Iowa game. So
Yeah. I would say Graham's pass was worse in terms of accuracy, but the more embarrassing one was definitely Petrus because it's the first play, and he just completely rolled to his left and decided to just throw it when Tanner McAllister was standing just right where he was throwing. Two of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. Tanner McAllister just makes that happen, I guess. But I would say Spencer's was worse overall. But Graham actually had an open receiver and Tanner was like trailing and he threw it right to Tanner. It was weird. It was
very, very, very odd. I think we would all agree that Georgia's going to win this game. They do have a couple of tough games coming up on their schedule, which is going to be interesting to take a look at. Oregon and Utah, big game at 3:30 on Fox. 6-1 versus 6-1. Matt picked Oregon in that to cover by 6.5 on the road. Do you have a score?
34-20.
All right. Brady, do you have a score?
I'm going to go Oregon 37-10 blowout.
Damn. All right. I'm going to go Oregon. I'll say 31-21 over Utah. Maybe 10. Duke, Louisville. Louisville 6-1, number 18 in the country. Duke at number 20. They're 5-2. Louisville only favored by 4 at home. Matt, do you like this line or not?
What is it now? Louisville favored by 4?
By 4 against Duke at home.
I like Duke, actually. I think they cover.
Do you think they win?
Yes.
All right.
21-17.
All right. Brady, you going with Matt or what?
Yeah, I'm going with Matt here with Duke as the winner. We're going to go 24-20. Good game there.
I'm going to roll with you guys on that one. I'm going to go with Duke in a 17-10 battle over at.
I hate to interrupt here, but we got a little news here.
Yeah, break it.
So I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Not sure if you guys saw it or not. You might have seen it, but it's the first time seeing it. It broke about a little less than an hour ago, so probably right when we were about to go on.
Okay.
According to the Big Ten sportsmanship policy, Commissioner Tony Petitti has exclusive authority to see if offensive actions have occurred and to impose discipline. Policy lists integrity of competition as a fundamental element the Big Ten members must uphold. So that's from Adam Rittenberg. You guys know who that is. I'm sure you do. He's pretty well known. So basically just saying, the Big Ten can now step in before the NCAA does and impose some sort of, banning Michigan from the Big Ten championship. We'll see what it is or whatever, but they have the authority to, which I think is what's going to end up happening. And I think Harbaugh is going to end up getting the boot here. So I just wanted to break that. I didn't know if you guys seen that yet?
I had not seen that.
I knew of the rule. I didn't see that certain. I had heard that earlier today.
Yeah, so we shall see. I mean, that's actually kind of big because we all know the NCAA takes a while. So if the Big Ten wants to get this thing the ball more rolling a little bit, they could step in and say, "Listen, you guys are fucked. You're done." So.
Indeed, yeah.
I think don't know if the Big Ten will do that to one of their best teams. That's the only.
I mean, they definitely won't unless they have like
clear cut evidence. Yeah.
I mean, but it looks like they fucking do. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean,
it might be the most clear thing. Like,
it'll be really interesting to monitor. Thanks for the break on that, Matt. Because I mean, having the conference step in before the NCAA, because you've seen the NCAA take a long time, like you mentioned, and the NCAA makes some really, really, really weird sanctions come down and all this other stuff. I don't know. I think having the fact of the conference stepping in is, a pretty big thing overall, because a lot of these games involved conference opponents and conference games that were going on. So that's going to be a big thing going forward. Thanks for the break on that, Matt. Call yourself a Woj bomb or whatever the heck you want, but shoot, or a Pete Thamel or
Ricky's Rumble.
Ricky's Rumble. Hey,
I am a wordsman.
Is that right? Yes, you are. Ricky's Rumble. Is that is that you dropping words, or is that you dropping a? Never mind. I'm not even gonna go. Oh man, looking at other games around college football, there really isn't a whole lot that would stick out in anything. I will say a sneaky matchup going on. I would say Oklahoma against Kansas, but I think Oklahoma's a way better team than Kansas. But Texas, without Quinn Ewers, who's the freshman they're starting again? Who is that?
Malik Murphy. He's a sophomore, actually.
The sophomore, my fault.
He's a cannon.
He's a sophomore, and obviously that means Arch Manning is the second string quarterback just in case anything was to happen to Malik Murphy. They're taking on BYU, who is 5-2. BYU did get blown out a couple weeks ago against TCU, but like I said, Texas is playing with a backup quarterback. It is a 3:30 ABC game. It's a big game for them to try to keep their hopes alive, but they're playing a testy BYU team. As we get a comment in here, that's Asian Pastorine saying, "Hi, Brady." So,
hi.
What's up? Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Hello,
Yes.
Asian Posh.
There you go. Now,
Appreciate it. Thank
yes.
you. Hey, are you, were you up at the Ohio State band thing on Friday night again?
Well, we'll
Oh,
see.
boy.
Yeah, go ahead and respond.
Yeah, let's see. They'll lose. Yeah. And then, so there you go.
Texas or Oklahoma? Or both?
We'll
Hopefully
figure.
both. I hope both of them lose. I root for implosion.
She
all
was at the
There
band
you go.
thing on Friday. So there you go.
Oh,
That's good stuff there. Good stuff, man. We appreciate you. Appreciate you, Asian Posh, for obviously, giving a lot of support and everything. And she was talking about Texas on that as that covers Brady's face up. Now, I mean, there's a chance this could be the one of the upsets of the week. Maybe maybe you clip this and I sound like a complete idiot come Monday, but just saying, keep an eye on it with the backup quarterback coming in play, a testy BYU Cougar squad. Just saying, who knows? So, that's going to be a big thing going forward. Anybody got any final thoughts before we get on out of here?
fuck Bucky the Badger.
yes. I was waiting for that.
Facts.
Finally
Facts.
get to go to Bucky's hometown.
You're gonna have a whole week.
Bucky.
You're gonna have a whole week of that and stuff. So we can't wait for that. Brady, got any final things before we wrap it up?
I don't, other than win, go 11-0, go into Ann Arbor, make JJ McCarthy look like John O'Corn, and put them back in their place where they belong. And then Hartwell's gone, and their program. So
I thought you were gonna say a different John, but that's an inside joke there. But yeah. With that being said, Chase Johnson, Matt Ricketts, Brady King, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for the support, and it's a good show.